Slip and Dip podcast.
Oh, beautiful, man. What is up, people? Welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast, episode number 69. Coming at you very, very late on a Sunday evening. But we got a jam-packed show for you today. 3 fantastic guests in the world of combat sports. 2 journalists, 1 champion, 1 and new champion in Mr. Shawn Porter.
And he called it on this show.
He did. He called it. He called it and got it done. Shawn Porter got his hand raised. He is the new WBC welterweight champion of the world, and he's joining the show for the second time. Also on the show, we have 2 debutantes in Mr. RJ Clifford of Sirius XM Satellite Radio and MMA Fighting's own Shaun Al-Shatti of the great and powerful MMAfighting.com, joining us to talk any and everything in the world of combat sports. And before we get to all that, Kendrick, Triple G Canelo 2, man.
It was crazy, man. I was there. I tweeted out. I'm going to pull a Skip Bayless on Undisputed. If you check my Twitter timeline, right before this card's call, I know you probably saw it. I said, this fight is going to be close. Since it's close, Canelo will be and new. Exactly how it went down. I had it 114. I could look back. I went back in because I didn't see the feed. It's out this morning. I had a 115, 113 Canelo. But even if you had a 115, 113 Triple G, it's possible. It's not a robbery just because who you thought didn't win. I kept hearing so many people saying, the only people saying it was a robbery was motherfuckers that did win that bet last night and cover that spread that went to MGM with them bad tickets. Other than that, people really wasn't mad. We got to see action. It lived up to the hype. I thought it was going to be more brutal than what it was, but both of them came in with sunglasses, so it was very physical fight.
Yeah, it was a good fight, man. It was a good fight, but good back and forth fight. You know, to me, it felt like Canelo had the juice early, and then Triple G started stealing it later in the rounds. But you know, unfortunately, the judges saw it for Canelo, and that's not a surprise at the end of the day.
No, because I had Triple G winning the first one, and it was a draw. So this one was remotely close. You knew Canelo was going to get the decision.
Yeah, I mean, that's just...
I saw Teddy Atlas acting a fool.
him and
Stephen A.
Him and Stephen A. shot a 1985 WWE promo. I'm like, what are y'all doing right now? What are y'all doing? Like, it might as well have been Mean Gene and Hulk Hogan right there. Like, that's what that, like, oh my God. It was nuts. It was hilarious, though.
And unlike the MMA world, we got to talk to the A-listers last night. My guy talked to Maverick Carter and LeBron. I was too busy. I hauled off and saw some other people out there. I'm not going to put their name out there, some movie people. But it was kind of cool to see a fight and get what the A-listers think, since they keep you secluded in the MMA world. So that was kind of a cool touch to see all that. I know everybody's already buzzing with Conor and Khabib. They're already buzzing about that fight out there.
Yeah, I mean, they should be, man. That's the biggest fight. Conor Khabib, man, that fight's going to be so crazy. That fight week is going to be nuts with all the Irish fans and then clashing. Like, yeah. I mean, I thought the José Aldo one was kind of wild because, you know, you had the Brazilian fans and they stand up for themselves. Bro, it's going to be
with Little Promo, it's already got a buzz. I think me and you should watch the fight together, go to a sports bar, and do the damn thing.
I mean, hey, we'll see. We'll see how it works out. We'll see how it works out, man. I just know it's going to be crazy. If I don't end up going out there. Like I said, if I do end up covering the fight, I'll probably be there just for Friday and Saturday, and that's usually not worth it.
Man, yeah, I'll be busy with football. Texas OU weekend. Everybody in that cover college football know how big that game is. Yeah. Them teams can be 0-3, and they seem to have a crazy game every year.
They do. Texas got a big win this week, but that's neither here nor there. So let's get into the show. Like I said, we have 3 fantastic guests this week. 2 Shawns and an RJ. And if you're a Dallas listener, that sounds like the morning show on 105.3 The Fan. Shawn and RJ, but that's, again, neither here nor there. But yeah, let's get into it, guys. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share with your friends, share with your family, share with people you like and don't like. And if you're on iTunes, please leave us a review. And, of course, subscribe on YouTube as well and Spreaker. And, yeah, just share it around. And we'll be back with you guys next week with some more guests and talk some more combat sports. More fight cards will be in the books. And, yeah, we'll go from there. First up, we will have Mr. Shawn Showtime Porter. Enjoy.
Please welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast. fresh off his unanimous decision over Danny Swift Garcia, the new WBC welterweight champion of the world, Shawn Showtime Porter. Thanks for giving us some more time, champ. We told you ball, you get the call. You getting that call now.
No doubt. I seen that earlier, man. Maybe he have. I actually thought about you too. So I'm glad to be on the phone with you, man. As a new world champion, and definitely enjoying the experience as it comes.
Of course, people forget you were a champion before. You the IBF champ, but this time just seems like so much different. That's from the outside looking in. Is it different to live it, or just it's a same thing, just a different color belt? But it seems this time was a little bit more impactful.
It's more impactful for me, and I finally figured out why. I think my first run at becoming a world champion, it was just it was collectively what kind of envisioned for me. And I think, moving forward this time around was 100% my goal to become a WBC world champion. And so I think, for me to accomplish that goal, a goal that I set for myself, has made it a little bit more meaningful for me to be a champion again.
Yeah, I saw some pictures of you on the internet with my guy Brian Salmon out there for the Las Vegas Review Journal. How's it feel to have a green belt that you did not buy?
It's fun, man, and I'm sure y'all had been seeing everything that we have been doing the week of the fight and everything leading up to it. And I kept saying that the belt was coming back here to Vegas, and it was something that, like I said before, man, it was a goal that I really, really wanted to achieve, and something that I really wanted to have. And prior to this fight, man, I've never, made a prediction that I was gonna knock anyone out, anything like that at all. I just kind of went in there and, tried to do my thing and allow my actions to speak for themselves. And this time, I spoke it into existence. And for me to bring that belt back home to Vegas and do interviews saying, yeah, I'll be back with the belt, and be able to do just that has been really special.
Talk about that feeling that you had when they announce your name and they give you that belt. You just kind of had this it's here type look. You know what I'm talking about? And your dad's going crazy, and your people, but it seemed like you kind of had that I did it type look. Is that how?
Yeah, it was 100% that, man. It was 100% just, wow, I can't believe it. Like I said, for me to say I'm going to do something and, believe so much in what I can do and what I wanted to do and have it come to life, just really made it special, man. I can't really even describe, the feeling of becoming a world champion again, what that feels like. It's been unbelievable.
So talking about the fight itself, man, you just touched on that moment there, hearing your name, right before your name being called. Was there any doubt that there would be any shenanigans with the scorecards?
Well, just wondering, and even when the first thing I heard Jimmy Lennon say was unanimous decision. And I was relieved because I knew it wasn't going to be a draw. I knew either way, fans were going to be happy or they were going to be mad. And the only way they could be mad is if it was a draw. So I remember when I heard him say it was a unanimous decision, I remember thinking, all right, here we go. And I didn't understand the scorecards, but it was just that little fear that it would be my name that was being said at the end of all that. But it was just the fear that, it didn't go the way that we had thought it had gone, and at the last bell, we were pretty confident and comfortable that we won the fight, but, you never know. This is boxing, and, sometimes it just doesn't happen the way you see it, the way fans see it, and the way everybody in the crowd sees it. Sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. So I think this time the judges got it right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I 100% agree. I was sitting there. I was like, okay, there's no way that this is gonna get ripped away from him, as we kind of saw this weekend with Triple G Canelo 2, it was like, everybody knew that something crazy was going to happen with the scorecards, especially considering what happened in their first matchup. And it's just like, you never seem to know, man. You never seem to know. And like you said,
it's hard, man. Boxing is just one of those sports where it's opinion based. It's not. And the judges are trained, but they're trained according to what the person that trained them sees. You know what I mean? No one has. There's no one set criteria to judge a fight. So even when it comes to training to judge a fight, those guys and those women are trained according to someone else's opinion on how they should be trained. So it's definitely a tough sport to wait for a decision. A lot of times it's really hard when there's two great athletes in the ring and no one's been knocked down, no one's been hurt, and both guys are hitting each other. Sometimes it really is hard to, start to swallow that pill once you start to score. I didn't agree with last night's score. I thought Triple G won the fight. Thought he won the fight by two rounds. But I thought it was a razor thin fight the entire way. It seemed to me like for a bit of the fight, it was like you were watching the same guy on both sides. It was like, they were, one guy's hitting and then the other guy's taking the punches, and then the next guy's hitting and the other guy's taking the punches. It was like, for a majority of the fight, it seemed like both guys had the same offense and the same defense. There were just certain points in rounds where one guy would separate himself from the other guy, So it was another really great fight and tough to score again.
From a business look, do you think that just boxing being in the front light and center with y'all fight and the Triple G Canelo fight, you think that's good for business? Because as somebody that covers UFC and covers y'all, I think it's crazy when people's like, boxing's dead. It's like, it's gone. And the like, did you not just see the last 2 weeks of action?
Well, I thought it was great for boxing. I thought, for boxing fans and for the general public to come off of one really great, exciting match of myself and Danny Garcia. Great records, great resume, young guys, vibrant in there, great energy, action from the beginning bell to the end bell, and then to come right back and have Triple G and Canelo, a lot the same, exciting, both outside the ring and inside the ring once it gets going. And to me, it's a double-edged sword because this fight was close to not happening at all with Canelo being, tested positive for something. I don't know what it was, but, for him to come back and win that fight, it's like, he tested negative, so it's like, okay, he's clean, and he was able to pull it off again, but at the same time, it's like he was tested positive. I don't want to see these guys fight or win at all, so that part of it made the fight a little hard to watch and accept him winning, depending on who you are. But at the same time, I thought it was great for boxing to have back-to-back great exciting weekends.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I must say this tweet you have pinned is so beautiful, man. With your little one there at the belt, it's awesome. We got you? Yeah, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Oh, okay. I was saying that tweet that you got up there pinned with your little one with the belt. It's amazing, man. Those are some great photos right there. You can pass down to him when he grows up.
Yeah, it's I've done my best to separate my personal life from my professional life, and I think it was just time. Obviously, I think just God's plan for him to be somewhat in the spotlight with me as of late. And it's been fun. It's been great. My fiance and I will be getting married soon and starting another chapter of my life, So to start another chapter and be a champion and still be hungry is great.
Yeah, congrats on the marriage, man. I met you, your girl, last year when we did our thing at the Fred Expo, and congrats on Little Man. I'm like, man, Shawn didn't even tell me about Little Man. I knew you and your lady were gonna get married, but I didn't know you had to have plus one.
Yeah, and it's funny because I met her in 2014 at the Box Fan Expo, and we're pulling up this year. And she looks at me. She says, "Love, it's funny. We met here, and now in 2018 we're pulling up with a baby." And we both bust out laughing because, you know, you never know what twists and turns life is gonna take you through. God's gonna take you through, and certainly has taken me through some. So a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and I'm glad that I can say I'm really joyful and happy right now. That's what God can do for you if you know remain faithful and continue to move in His steps.
Tell me this: we know the fight that everybody want to see. How bad do you want to make it happen with Dallas finest Earl the Truth Spence? And does it matter where it's going to be at? Because I heard anything from it be at the PBC home of the course of Barclays where you fought. Heard it might be in Vegas, or it might even be here in Dallas. Does it even matter where it's at? As long as y'all get it on and unify those belts. And do you have to see him? Do you have to see him next, or do you just have to eventually see him?
I'm excited to make that fight happen. I think that fight is gonna be a fun promotion, and I think it's gonna be a really competitive fight. And I really am looking forward to setting that fight up and making that fight happen. I'm not exactly sure how soon that fight's gonna happen. I'm sorry I can't just stay right here on the phone. This is definitely the next fight. I'm not positive, but I want it to be the next fight for me. As far as where, I know that PBC just signed a big deal with Fox. I know that Barclay, they signed something with the Barclay as well, you know. So it's looking like more than likely that fight could happen in Brooklyn. Obviously, I would love it to be in Vegas, where I live at, train at, boxing Mecca. And then also, I know that he's done pretty well down there in Houston. You bring me down there, and I'm sorry, not Houston, but Dallas. And I know you bring me down there, and everybody's gonna come out to the fight. So I obviously don't want to be in a extremely hostile territory, but I'm comfortable in it. And even outside of that, man, I just want thousands of fans in the seat. I know that we had I was told we had about 13,000 the other night. So anything between 13, 15, 20. 30, I'm happy.
Hey, we you got a lot of love down here in Detail Showtime. We got love for you down here.
I know that, man. I know that, and the love is everywhere, man. And it's fun because at the end of the day, man, a lot of guys will be biting their nails and anticipation of what's gonna happen, and a lot of guys will be unsure of who's gonna win the fight and how the fight's gonna play out. That's what makes boxing so great.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you said it all right there, man. You said it all. Man, champion once again, got marriage on the way, got the little one growing up, man. It's good. It's good times to be Shawn Porter right now, huh?
Yeah, it's a good time to be me. And like I said, man, I do, man. I feel extremely blessed, honored. And I understand the position I'm in right now. So, and nothing's gonna change. I'm still gonna go out there and give it my all, and in the meantime, have fun. And to me, that's what life is all about.
So what's the next goal that you have for yourself? I mean, you got the strap again. So what's that next goal that you're gonna be reaching for moving forward?
I actually have not set a goal yet. I think maybe just even still, at the high, of the fight and everything, that I haven't really sat down to make any plans yet. But I know the diet starts tomorrow. I gained a lot of weight already in just the course of about 10 days. Too many cookies, and so tomorrow the diet begins. And once I refocus in, I'll figure out what's next. But I think I had a lengthy conversation with my pastor, Pastor Randall Cunningham, just a few days ago, and he said to me, he says, you won. He said, but now you got to reach for greatness. And he said, there's a difference between winning and being great. He says a winner can win some and lose some, and that's okay. He said, but the great ones win and continue to win. He said, so now you just got to continue to win. So that might be my goal, man. My next goal might very well be to win until I'm done with this.
Skill and a half.
How would it feel to be if you do get to fight Earl? Because in y'all Earl, you be the first person to fight all the comers. Because like Earl and Keith had fought, Earl and Danny had fought. You fought Danny, beat him, had a very close decision with Keith. You would have been there to fight Earl. How does it feel to be that guy that you can say you stepped in with everybody of your era? Because they can't say that right now. They still got to see each other. You didn't already did your job.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I want to get in the ring with Earl. Number one, he's the top dog right now in the weight class, and I'm up for that challenge. And then the other thing as well is, I've pretty much fought everybody else, every big name out there. So I think Earl's the last of them, and I'm ready for him.
I know the whole political stuff. I trip out when people act like this is realistic. What do you think Terrence Crawford fits in all this? Because he's not a real 147-pounder, and he's got the wrong promoter. Does he even figure in y'all equation, do you think? Or do you even look at him as somebody in y'all era, in y'all division? Because he just kind of like, he's like they say about LeBron, he's a guest in the West. He's a guest in the welterweight, it looked like.
Yeah, Terrence is in a tough position right now. He's kind of, what we all say on the wrong side of the fence right now. Obviously, he's new to the welterweight division, but he's not new to boxing. And trust me, any weight class he's in, he's gonna be a dog in. And we've seen him perform, so y'all know that I'm not just shooting the shit when I say he's gonna be top and elite in any weight class that he's in. But I do think that right now he's just gotta represent. He's got and he's done that before. Everybody that put in front of him, he knocks down. And he's got to continue to do that. I think at some point he'll be able to get in the ring with us, and then there won't be any excuses for him. A lot of people say that he hasn't fought anybody. I think once he's gotten the opportunity to get in the ring with the best, he will definitely contend with the best, beat a lot of the best, and definitely show you guys that his record, his resume. His experience as a professional world champion is not padded. To me, he is the real deal, and it's only a matter of time before the rest of the welterweight division figures that out.
Very cool. I know you said you don't, you can't really announce when you're going to have your next fight, but is it something that you want to hold off the rest of the year, or you just want to enjoy the rest of the year, enjoy the holidays, or if you had your way, would you like to get back in there before 2019?
Right now, I'm thinking about just trying to enjoy the rest of the year. Obviously, like I said, start back dieting and training tomorrow, and see what happens. I feel good. My body feels good. I'm not worn down from this training camp. I'm not tired from this training camp. So we'll see what happens. Best case scenario, something happens before Christmas. If it's not happening, it can't happen before Christmas, then I don't want it to happen at all. Christmas is definitely a time that I cherish with my family. We all get together. It's been about 20 of us in the house for the last 5, 6, 7 years. So that's a tradition that we like to continue. And if you can't get me in the ring before Christmas, then you might as well scratch it and wait till next year for me.
Thanks for the insight, champ. I'll definitely come holler at you when I go out to Vegas. I had a lot of stuff going back and forth, but I'll be out there for that Wilder Fury fight that's going to be December for sure. So
I heard it's going to be here, man. I heard it's going to be here. I'm excited, man. I'll definitely be in the building for that.
And I'll definitely come by the Porter Fitness Center. And I'll holler at you.
You ain't got no choice, man. You ain't got no choice.
Not an option. It's not an option. Yeah, man.
I'm serious.
I'm trying to get my man to come because he comes to UFC, but we go to Vegas often, but we're never there at the same time.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Oh wow. Yeah, y'all got to link up. Y'all got to do that.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're sitting in the same room right now, but once it seems like whenever we travel for events, it's like we miss each other, different schedules. It's kind of crazy.
Hey, how awesome is that fight though? Maybe I'm biased because I live here, but I just think it's awesome that fight is going down here in Vegas.
Yeah,
it's a perfect spot for it.
It's a perfect spot for it.
I think it's the perfect spot for it. You talk about, boxing being, somewhat of the sport right now that's not in the limelight, especially compared to other sports like football and basketball. But when people think about boxing, they usually think about the heavyweight division. So, to bring this fight to Vegas and really highlight it and show people, what we got here in the heavyweight division, I think this is going to be a big move for boxing.
Right, I sure will be there. All right, before I let you go, Showtime, what about your Browns, man? They are a charity. They will give away the ball game.
Tough, man, tough. I was holding my son. I was holding my son, and he was asleep. We're in a restaurant, and when Tyrod Taylor threw that ball up to Callaway, and Callaway was running under it, I stood up and I started walking towards the TV. And when he caught the ball, I jumped up and down, woke my son up and everything, man. I had a ball watching the game today, man. I just need them to be able to finish these games, man. They got to finish them.
Yeah, man. I need them to get Njoku involved a little bit more. I need him for my fantasy squad, I need some fantasy points.
Oh, that must be your fantasy guy.
Yeah, it is.
That's your fantasy guy. That's why you care. You ain't no Browns fan. Get off the phone. You just talking fantasy right now.
Hey, I watched every single episode of Hard Knocks, and they made me a little. I got a little bit of love for him now. A little bit,
man. Yeah, that's what Hard Knocks is designed to do. It's supposed to make you a fan of a team you would normally care about. Yeah. But I think we have a good cast this year, and it's just a matter of them, like I said before, finishing these games and being professional all the way to the end. I think this one just really got away. And you talk about, Zane Gonzalez has been on the team for about 3 seasons, I think, and he's been pretty solid. For him to start the season like this, to me, is a surprise, and I don't expect to see him on the squad Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, we got a guy that just got, released for no good reason from the Cowboys and might be getting a call, you know what I'm saying? Mr. Dan Money Bailey, as I call him.
Your kicker? Y'all just released y'all kicker?
We did right before the season. The most accurate kicker in the history of the NFL. They just released him.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him. I didn't know he was released. I actually had him on my fantasy league maybe last year or the year before.
Yeah. And the Dez might come to that door tomorrow because they say that Josh Gordon basically gonna get traded or cut, and the Cowboys supposed to pick him up.
Yeah, so I'm like, what the hell? Like, he came to visit, and I'm hearing the scoop back home was he looked out of shape, so they didn't want to mess with him. But this is a guy that has led the NFL and not 5-6 years ago. Like, this dude is top every year, and for them not to just chauffeur him out, saying that that we have Josh Gordon and everything's gonna be fine, and then you look up and you shipping Josh Gordon out, man, you got things a little twisted, and everybody back home is justifying it, saying that they trying to change the culture. Well, you don't change the culture by getting rid of one of the best players, not only on the team, but arguably in the NFL, as long as he can get on the field, So it's tough, man. We in for a long season. I think it's gonna be an up and down season for us again.
I feel the pain, man. I mean, we got the same thing going on here with the Cowboys. I mean, they released Dez because they want to change the culture. I mean, that's your number one receiver. What are you doing?
Yeah, man. You know what? You can't feed me that, man. It's the same, but it ain't the same. Like, y'all have had success in previous seasons, in previous just as late as last year, So
let me stop you there, man. We're just like you in the boxing ring, man. It's championships or bust. That's how we are.
I hear you. I hear you.
So that's how it is, man. It's just kind of tough, but yeah, best of luck to your Browns going forward, man. I'll be watching them. Like I said, man, Hard Knocks got me paying attention to them a little bit. So.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, well, fellas, y'all have a great evening. Thanks for getting me on. And next time we'll hit up that Skype and do it the right way.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for the time, champ.
I got it. Have a good night.
All right, take it easy.
Please welcome to the Slip and Dip podcast, making his Slip and Dip debut. One of the most all-around guys in the MMA game today, Mr. RJ Clifford, host of UFC Tonight on XL Radio and part of UFC Tonight on TV. You on both sides of the dial.
You got to do like 17 things in this business if you plan on sticking around. So I diversify my portfolio as best I can.
So true, man. So true. You gotta do all sorts of things, like 20 different outlets, anything just to even hope to turn a profit these days. So is the
and that's just on top of selling oranges on the freeway on the underpass. So it's really diverse. That's what I got to do.
What do you think the state of UFC is in right now with everything being in a flux? Because I told Matt, people are really sleeping on the fact that this game is really going to change in 2 years, because I'm one of the few people I cover UFC and boxing, and a lot of people in the boxing game is like basically like red bells that once July 2020 come around, they just going to cash up that $300 million and go into boxing, and UFC will now look like nothing like it looks like today, and nobody's talking about it. Not even the big people at the other network, your competitor.
Well, it's like any other sports property, MMA and the UFC specifically kind of adapt to the times, right? I mean, when they first came out in '93, it was a pay-per-view, and it was like $20, and it was a big success. And then it was just underground on the internet for a while after that. And then they came big on pay-per-view again when they started getting regulated. And then Spike TV came around, and then as property right, or as rights to broadcast sports started skyrocketing, they started changing their model. Right before, there used to be just every single pay-per-view, the UFC would live and die by the pay-per-view, and now they're cranking out as many fights as they can because that's where the money is. Fox and now ESPN and all these other sports networks, they need content. They need live content. So the UFC kind of turned from like a niche, big, huge event, once a month company to we're cranking out 42 fights a year because that's what networks want. So the beautiful thing about MMA is it's flexible, right? There's not a season. There's not teams. They're not restricted to specific markets. They can go essentially wherever they want. They can put on as many fights or as few fights as they want. So that flexibility, I think, always kind of gave them an advantage with a lot of TV networks.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, like you said, all those cards, like it's a gift and a curse at times, man, because, that card that they had this weekend, it seems like nobody was really paying attention to it. I mean, not only was it on Fight Pass, but it was just like, earlier in the day, which is cool for a lot of people stateside because we don't usually get that. But it's like you go from having Tyron Woodley versus Darren Till title fight, and then the next weekend you have two over 40-year-old heavyweights headlining a show that has no relevance whatsoever. So it's like the oversaturation at times, man, it really takes away from, the week-to-week product.
See, I'm big that oversaturation isn't an issue for fans.
I agree.
It could be
with that, but...
it could be for promoters.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think it's an issue for promoters anymore because ESPN's paying them $300 million a year for as many fights as they can get their grubby little hands on. And you got all these other like DAZN and and PBC Boxing just signed with Fox. I mean, networks and streaming companies can't get enough content. I mean, you could put anything together and these people are buying it. So this idea that they're going to put on too many fights and they're going to go belly up because there's too many of them, that's just not true. Networks want it. And specific markets want specific things. So yeah, you're right. Like I don't believe it's a fan problem. Like if I didn't want to watch UFC Moscow on Saturday, I just wouldn't watch it. I would do something else. That's exactly. It's not. I mean, that's what I did. Media problem. It's a media problem more than it is a fan problem because media members are like, I got to get up early. I got to watch this fight. I want to do other things like every single weekend. If you're on salary, you're not getting paid more for these extra fights. So the media complains about it a lot. But with fans, you just pick and choose the fights you want to watch and then don't watch the fights you don't want to watch. It's as simple as that. And also, like UFC Moscow specifically, like you said, didn't get a lot of buzz here stateside. They sold over 20,000 tickets to that fight in Moscow. I mean, that's top five highest number of people gate-wise in UFC history. So, yeah, maybe it wasn't a big deal here, but in Moscow, it brought a lot of boys to the yard. So it's all about markets. It's all about who are the fights for, and what your flavor tea is.
As you're one of the few people that see all sides of the business, the corporation side, the fan side, the media side. What do you think the fact that the fighters are getting none of this pie that you alluded to with the ESPN deal? I think that's crazy, and nobody's really talking about that. Not a dime.
Things are changing, just not quite in the same prism of how we view other sports, right? Like with other, NFL, NBA, MLB, you get a percentage of all revenue, right? You have a collective bargaining agreement, and you get 52% of all revenue, whatever it may be. Obviously, the UFC fighters are nowhere near that number, but now it used to be where if you signed a 7-fight deal with the UFC, you didn't renegotiate till fight number 6. Now, fighters are renegotiating every single time out. One, because Lorenzo Fertitta is out, and so that was kind of his way of doing business. He would pay you under the table. These new guys aren't doing that quite as much anymore. And so now these fighters are saying, I'm not going to fight until you renegotiate, and I want more money. Luke Rockhold came off a loss and renegotiated right after that and got more money. So, look, they're certainly not getting what NFL, other major sports leagues are getting, but they're getting more. It's just nickel and dime and slow, and certainly not what most fans and most media members think they deserve.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's been the best answer to that question.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I think we're going to get, a big reminder of who we're going to be thanking because of that here in just a few weeks when Conor McGregor graces the octagon once again. Because he definitely was a huge part of these guys getting more money. He changed Nate Diaz's life with all the money that he got from those two fights.
He single-handedly made Nate Diaz one of the top 10 highest-paid UFC fighters ever.
Yes.
He made Tyron Woodley one of the biggest highest-paid fighters of the last few years because Woodley fought on one of his undercard pay-per-views, and he was also on the undercard of Jon Jones, Daniel Cormier. So Woodley became top 10 highest paid fighters of the last few years just by being on those undercards. So, that trickle down effect, so to speak, for the champ. Joanna Jędrzejczyk was on that pay-per-view with Conor McGregor as well. They did so well. So, yes. It's helping the champions. But I brought up an interesting question, and it was posed by my co-host AJ Hawk on my SiriusXM show. He's like, if Conor McGregor just decided to say, I'm not fighting until you unionize, I wonder what the UFC would do. Now, there's 0% chance he'd do that, but I'm just wondering. I'm just curious what the UFC's response to that would be.
They'd be like, "Man, Conor, we're inducting you to the Hall of Fame next week. Man, it was an incredible career. Thanks for the memories.
Here's a Rolex."
Exactly.
One thing that Conor's done is that a lot of people in the MMA, because they don't watch the damn fights, so at least on the other side in the boxing ring, is basically took the Mayweather model and brought it to MMA. That's all he's done. And it's a new thing to MMA, but people that watch boxing, he just doing what Floyd did, and take it to a higher, not as high a level as Floyd, but like you said, he changed the people like Floyd. Floyd changed his life to help him change other lives.
Floyd's changed a lot of lives over, in his day, and that's why, like, when people were saying, why wouldn't Floyd come to the UFC and fight Conor McGregor one-off? He'll make, $200 million, make all this money. Who cares if he loses? It's not boxing. He'd still be 50, blah, blah, blah. And my thing was, I don't think the UFC would do it because Floyd Mayweather, when he boxes, he gets percentage of gate. He obviously gets a huge chunk of pay-per-view. He gets concessions. Like, he probably gets the bootleg T-shirts they're selling on the strip whenever he fights. So he gets a cut of everything. He would demand that from the UFC. And I don't think the UFC would completely turn their business model upside down with their fighters and give them all the, if UFC fighters found out what Floyd Mayweather was getting and what he's getting cuts of, they're going to demand it as well. So that's why it's outlandish. There's a lot of reasons why Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor in the octagon would never happen. To me, that was the biggest one because the UFC had to completely turn their business model upside down to make it happen.
Right. But like we're talking about changing lives, he's retiring people. Like Marcos Maidana, I saw him fight both times against Floyd. Hadn't seen him since that day. He is not touching a boxing ring. That's what you don't change somebody's life. He took his money, went back to Argentina. Hadn't been seen since.
Don't blame him.
You think he's going to fight Pacquiao again, or is he just talking?
Look at the timing. And I guess because I know him, because I was out there back and forth to Vegas this past week. I was out there 2 years ago when Canelo fought Amir Khan. And I get a buzz from one of his people to be off the strip in one of those little malls that he hangs out at. He's talking to me and fight hype and stuff. It was the same type thing. It was the same exact scenario. So that's what Floyd being Floyd. Plus, if they fight, he'll be 42 and Pacquiao be 40 by the time the fight go off. Like, who really want to? I would say who want to see that. What do you think about Tito and Chuck? I was telling my co-host, people are going to watch it. I don't want to see no senior citizens fight, but other people do for some reason.
I was joking. I was like, all right, if you're gonna have two guys in their mid-40s fighting, like why doesn't Oscar De La Hoya come out of retirement? Why doesn't he fight on that card? And I was half joking, and then I realized De La Hoya is 3 years younger than Chuck Liddell. That's how old Chuck Liddell is. De La Hoya's been retired for eons, and he's younger than Chuck Liddell and probably has less miles on him. I mean, he's had a couple beatdowns later in his career, but Chuck had some brutal knockouts later on in his career. He's got some miles on him. It's not the years, it's the miles, and he's got both.
Yeah, and his trash talking, or at least Tito's trash talking, hasn't improved either. He said some pretty confusing things at the press conference. Just like, what did he say? Las Vegas, California, and then in some other interview, he was like, the sour grapes are turned into wine, and I don't know. It's just like so confusing. Like, just don't put a mic in front of either one of these guys. Like, just you'll sell the fight more so just on their still images alone. You know, just be like, just play old highlights.
I say put the mic in front of their face as often as you can, because the mashup, like remixes of their interviews is what's going to sell this fight. I mean, those things are going to go viral. Did you see Tito when he said he trained 4 days a week, twice a week, and then 6 days a week, once a week, and then twice a month, 8 days a week?
So
I mean, that got millions of views. That got millions of views.
You're in it for the memes, then. I'm with it though. I'm with it. I'm not mad at it.
He trolling.
Right?
It makes my job easy. Trust me, it makes my job very easy. Those guys.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm just worried that they keep sticking the mics in their face. They're gonna cancel the fight because they're worried about brain trauma or something.
The commission already approved them. I mean, just done is done.
That is true. That is true. It's strange times. I mean, it's one of those fights that everybody's gonna watch just because it's a train wreck. Everybody likes to see train wrecks, so you're gonna tune in. And unfortunately, we have to sit there and watch it. And when it's over in 2 minutes because Chuck broke his hip trying to throw a roundhouse or something, we'll be here for the.
Well, make no mistake, make no mistake about their star power. I mean, Tito Ortiz. I'm from the area. I went. Tito Ortiz coached wrestling at the high school I went to. This region knows Tito Ortiz, and obviously they're fighting the Forum in LA. Those guys are still superstars, man. People still know Chuck Liddell. People still know Tito Ortiz. That rivalry, as we all know, really pushed the UFC to a whole new level in the mid 2000s. So it's as old as the game itself, right? Old fighters coming back. This one, it doesn't mean anything fight-wise other than just chance for us to look back at the old timers and kind of reminisce at the good old days when we were young and naive and in our 20s.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Like you said, that their rivalry and their individual careers really kind of set up the UFC for what it is right now. Way before the Conor McGregors, way before the Ronda Rouseys. They were the ones that were there. Tito was in movies way back then. So many different movies Tito was in. He's just there's Tito Ortiz playing a badass cage fighter. The stereotypical cage fighter. With
I remember
Rumble, one of the Jet Li movies or something. I forget the name of it. I don't know.
Something to the Bone. I feel like there's a bone in the title.
You're probably right. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Yeah,
but he was in a bunch of them.
But he I remember in 2002 he had baseball cards. He had little cards he'd hand out with his he'd be on there with the flames, and his stats were on the back. That guy was marketing since day one, man. That guy knew how to get attention. I mean, we all joke about him he's a meme now, but he was the first MMA fighter to, at least statewide, to really treat it like a business, treat himself like a brand with equity that he could build.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no comparison. I mean, obviously, Conor McGregor came in, took it to a whole nother level, throwing dollies through buses. That's just all sorts of things. What do you think about the UFC using that as promo footage, man?
I mean, was there ever any doubt?
Nope.
Was there?
Nope.
Was there any doubt whatsoever? I mean, how many times did we see the MGM lobby brawl between Daniel Cormier and Jon Jones in DC chucking his loafer across? We saw that 100 times. How many times did we see the Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz crew energy drink fight over and over and over in promos again? How many times did we see Jon Jones in DC in that ESPN interview where they thought the cameras were off and they were spatting at each other?
That was great.
I mean, that was promotional gold. I mean, that Dana White prays every day that someone's throwing a dolly through someone's window. So, when Dana White was asked in that scrum right after the accident, and the media was asking him, it's are you going to stay in the Conor McGregor business? He's like, would you want to be in the Conor McGregor business? Hell yeah, I would, and you would too, especially after this.
Right? I just I get that, like, you know, just in the moment when like the cameras were on Dana in the back and he was just like, "Oh, I'm so disgusted. I'm so pissed off right now." No, you weren't. You were loving it. You were loving every second of it. You're thinking about, "Oh my goodness, this is gonna go great on this commercial." You know, come on. Like, just own it from the jump. You could be like, "These guys are gonna fight in the cage." Like, start promoting from that instant. Don't say like, "Oh, this is a black guy for the sport." If you're gonna own it, own it. You know, don't do it 180 24 hours later.
Well, this is where so often people bag on, and for good reason, bag on Dana White for not being the traditional commissioner and treating things like a sport, being professional, and not getting in Twitter arguments with like guys with avatar, like an egg as an avatar, and like cussing at anonymous people on the internet, and like getting in like Instagram wars with Brendan Schaub in the comment section. Like, people bash him for that, but that was him being a true commissioner, right? Lying out of one side of your mouth, saying how disgusted you are, and putting on like a moral front for this. And the other part is like, hey, save all that footage. We're gonna reuse it 100,000 times between now and their fight. Like, that's a commissioner right there. That is an American sports commissioner behavior.
Absolutely. There's no doubt, man. I mean, it's definitely one of those things, and I mean, it was something that was so organic and something that is going to connect with so many different people. Like, you throw that on the promo, and people will be like, "Oh snap, these two guys are going to fight." You can see the crazy, or like the stoic Russian on the bus just staring him down like, "Let me get to you. Let me get to you." And they'll be like, okay. They've already put together a couple of pretty badass promos. So, I mean, you know, you don't really need all these press conferences. The one that they're going to have, I think it's this week, right? That's closed to the public, which is so weird.
Yeah, Thursday. Thursday they're going to do one in New York. Do you think they're going to do like, do you think they're going to go all out and hire like 20 6'4" security guards to like stand around them and act like they don't want, like, to make sure they don't fight? Do you think they're gonna go all out, or do you think they're just gonna like kind of play it cool?
That would be great. Honestly. I would love that. I mean, it's just gonna be weird. I don't see how this is gonna play out, man, with no crowd, because that's what makes these press conferences, is having the crowd reaction. You don't have a crowd reaction unless if some of the media. I'll tell you this. I covered UFC 228 here in Dallas, and there was a credentialed media member, who stood up at ceremonial weigh-ins with his credential on, pulled out a flag for Darren Till, and stood up and started chanting, "Yeah, Darren Till, Liverpool," all this. I was like, what is happening? Wait, please tell me you stole that credential from somebody. Please tell me you were not actually credentialed and you're doing this. Turns out he was.
Yeah.
I will say this: I didn't see him on Fight Night, so he probably got his credential yanked after that. But
I didn't. It used to be the Wild West back then, like mid 2000s. You'd get all kinds. They've started to pull the reins back more and more. The UFC, they've gotten a little bit more picky. But like with the big fights, when everyone, it's like the Super Bowl, like media day at the Super Bowl. You've got like people in costumes and like mariachi bands, and it's just a complete shit show. Yeah. Like the big UFC fights, like they get a little flavor of that as well. So but the UFC's gotten better, a little bit better, but not great.
No. Tell me this, RJ. I cover multiple sports. I cover NBA. Like, I've been to NBA All-Star Weekend. I've been to the ESPYs. For me, it's easier for me to go to the Super Bowl than it is to go to a high-level UFC fight. That's crazy, isn't it? But I don't look like you, though.
It's weird. Like, you want as much media there, but you don't want as much media there. Like, you want it to feel like big and important, and you want to be able to say like, "Oh my God, we had to move all the media to this giant tent," or we had to, you could always tell when the UFC was at the MGM, they had their media halls, and you could tell if they were in Hall A, that was their big, huge one that they had to rent, and if they were in Hall B, it was a smaller pay-per-view, and if they blew the wall out and used both, it was enormous. Like, you can always kind of gauge that by just like media. Yeah. But of course, the big, huge ones, you get guys with their Darren Till flags and screaming and getting their.
It's so crazy, man.
I fear for my life at that tent they have us in out there at T-Mobile. Like, this thing's just gonna come down one of these days. It's not gonna be a good look.
Yeah, you gotta get a prediction of when it's gonna happen.
Probably never. Yeah, it's so weird the way they do things sometimes. But hey, the worldwide leader in MMA, handling business. week in and week out. Next week,
World fucking domination, right?
Yeah, they go from Texas to Russia and then to Brazil and back to Vegas. They're all over the place. But yeah, keep up if you so choose week in and week out, man. RJ, man, thanks for coming on the show, brother. Please let everybody know where they can find you and all of your incredible work that you do on SiriusXM and any other place.
Well, you can normally find me at Dempsey's. It's a bar right down the street. But if you want to find me on the internet, I'm on Twitter at RJ Clifford MMA. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 Eastern, I'm on SiriusXM called MMA Tonight, normally with AJ Hawk, sometimes Misha Tate, sometimes Ryan McKenna. We like to rotate people through. And then every Wednesday night on Tough Talk after The Ultimate Fighter on FS1.
Beautiful, man.
Appreciate it, brother, man. We appreciate your time and everything. And definitely for your all-around, you got a little hand in everything, all in the UFC MMA fight.
I'm trying, man. Trying. Go until you die, right?
Absolutely. You got to do it, man.
Thanks,
Stay on the ground. Thanks for coming on, brother. Appreciate it. Please welcome to the Slip and Dip podcast, the senior editor of MMAfighting.com, Mr. Shaun Al-Shatti. We hung out in Dallas a little bit, watching some great action at UFC 228, and connected. Got him to come on the show, and here he is to talk some fighting, talk some MMA, talk whatever. What's up, Shaun? How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, guys. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. So, as I mentioned, saw you 228, Tyron Woodley, and still, obviously, we already gone through all of that recap and nonsense. But, a couple of weeks after the fact, is Tyron Woodley versus Colby Covington still the way we need to go with this thing?
Unfortunately, it does seem like that's the way we need to go. Just for the sake of interim titles, right? Like if this interim title is going to mean something and we want these titles ultimately to mean things in general, even though it feels like they don't at this point, it's got to be Colby next. I mean, it's either him or Usman. And I mean, you feel bad for Usman because he basically cut weight, killed his body for no reason. He got a little bit of a paycheck out of it, but that was it. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be Covington. That feels like the fight. That feels like a big enough fight to where it could headline 230 if it needs to, something like that. That feels like ultimately, because of where we are, the state of the world, and the issues that are being discussed in the world, I'm sure that fight is going to center a lot around those issues, and it's going to be really ugly. But because of that, by the time it comes, it might actually feel like a pretty big fight.
Shaun, do you think the UFC really gonna hit that real button and really let that stuff really go like boxing will, and then act like nothing happened? The UFC tries that, but they don't do a good job of pulling that off.
See, I don't know that the UFC will, but I know Colby definitely will, and I know, and I don't think it's going to be long until he does. I think it's going to launch right into Trump, Kaepernick type of stuff pretty damn quickly, and from there, who knows where the hell we go?
Yeah, I mean that already started when he was on the MMA Hour, or not the MMA Hour. It's actually the Helwani show now. Sorry, I still get those two confused. I still get those confused. Just saying. No shots at MMA fighting or anything like that at all whatsoever. But no, yeah, he said flat out, like, I represent the MAGA, he represents the liberals. It's just like, come on, we really going this route, man? Really sitting up there with the MAGA hat on, like, come on, dude. Come on, dude.
That's the route I think we're gonna go on, and I'm not looking forward to that part of it, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's unfortunate that we got to go down that road, but that is what it is, man. But looking ahead to things that are already on the docket, man. Conor and Khabib is coming up next. Well, not next.
Dude, that's sneaking up on us. That is sneaking up on us.
So quick, right?
It really is.
Yeah, 2 weeks away, man. We got another Brazil card in there, and then after that, it's right here. It's right here, and yet we have this crazy little closed to the public press conference coming up this week, which is I don't know how that atmosphere is going to feel. Like, that's so weird. Is it going to be like a post-fight press conference where they're just like, I don't know how that's going to work. Like, what are you expecting out of this?
I see. I'm not entirely sure, because a lot of the whole thing with Conor in press conferences, and generally like the way he acts in press conference, and the way he feeds off the crowd, and he feeds off the energy of the crowd. Like, he's great in post-fight press conferences just because he has the way he looks at the game. He can really break down nuances of his own performance and be really articulate and like really real in a way that I think a lot of fighters maybe don't self-actualize. But like the press conference Conor is like a different person entirely, and he totally just feeds off the crowd. The more the wild they are, the more wild he gets. Like, the best press conference I've ever seen in my life The best press conference I've ever seen in my life was him in Toronto with Mayweather, and those people were going nuts, and Conor just fed off of it so hard. If it's just a bunch of us media slouches in there, like, I'm sure he'll get some laughs, but like, I don't feel like the energy is going to be there at all.
I feel you exactly. I've been to Mayweather's by itself. I went to Mayweather and Conor, the first one in L.A., and I went to my top Conor by himself was when he basically beat Eddie Alvarez on the stage with the mink coat, and he came out with the dance. That was classic. He won the fight right there. The fight was over with right there. The fight was already over with.
And the crowd was loving it. The crowd was eating out of the palm of his hand.
I was too. I was like, this man is gangster in NYC with a big coat. Got this man losing his damn cool, pulling up a chair like they in the street. I already knew he was going to win there. I text back there. I was like, bro, it's kind of going to win by knockout. I thought it was going to be about third round, but I knew he had it right there. So he got him. Boom. He hooked him in.
Hey, you almost called it. Third round's close.
Right. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It, like you said, man, it's sneaking up, though, and virtually no promotion outside of, a couple of trailers that we've seen put together. Of course, that are using the bus footage, Of course, it's got to be in there. I mean, that's the Exhibit A of this fight. It's got to be involved, and of course, we're going to see it millions and millions of times over the next couple of weeks. I'm sure it's going to be brought up on, all these talk shows. I'm sure they're probably going to do like an ESPN spot or something like that a couple of times. Next week or something like that when they're in New York. I don't know, but yeah, it's definitely going to be a hot topic. And the fact that Conor got away from that, and here we are, and he's fighting again for a title, and it's just like he's just like, oh, here's your little slap on the wrist, community service, whatever else have you.
Here's your slap on the wrist. Now go make 15 million.
Right.
I think he'll make at least 50. I think he'll make at least 50 when it's all said and done. All the stuff that they don't talk about stuff. I don't see this dude coming from what he did with Mayweather for 10 to 15. That's probably he's now coming back. He's probably laughing at the people.
I agree with you, Kendrick. I think I was being conservative in my estimate. I think he's going to make probably more money than any UFC fighter has ever made for a UFC fight.
Yeah, he makes at least 50, and I bet you Khabib makes about 10.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the split is, the split's probably going to be one-sided, but we're not going to know that.
Yeah, of course, we never get the full details, man. It's kind of unfortunate. I wish we did. I just want to know, like, all those under the table checks that they hand out and everything like that we hear about, but we never actually see. Some fighters will talk about them every now and again, but
some will, because some understand that, like, the more that fighters talk about it in the public, the better it is for them, because then, like, if we're all working at a place and I'm making X and you're making Y and someone else is making Z, if we all know what each other are making, like, it's ultimately better because we can coordinate that of, like, he's making that, give me more money. So, like, if this is in the public in general, like for athletes, right? If somebody has somebody's on a basketball team and the center gets paid a $17 million contract, like, that sets the bar of what people should be getting paid if you're at that level and you're in that position. Like, so it just generally you can play off of each other. The way it is now is it's so secretive that the fighters can't really play off of each other unless they have the exact same manager.
Hey, Shaun, this is a personal question. It's a two-part question. One's from the fighter point of view. What do you think about the fact that they can't get a fighters union together? Because this wouldn't be an issue, and it's like an overall thing for MMA. Like for instance, like I'm part of the Writers Association for the NBA. And I do some stuff with the boxing one. We can't get a Writers Association for MMA together correctly. What do you think that says about the state of MMA, that people can't come together for the greater good? Because those need to happen to progress everything all around, from media point of view, fighter point of view, and just to grow the show, as they say.
Well, we do have a media MMA Writers Journalists Association. That's still going. That's in full effect. Like, that's actively working on stuff. But in regards to the fighters, man, it says a lot in general, and ultimately it's frustrating. It's really frustrating just to sit on the outside and watch it. But it's almost to the point where it's like I can't harp on it anymore, right? Like, if you guys aren't interested in helping yourselves, I can't be the one to force you guys to help yourselves. There have been so many different iterations of it, from attempts at trying to get this organized. And you saw it with Leslie Smith, man. She was putting herself out there. She's putting her career in jeopardy for Project Spearhead. The UFC does her dirty, and literally no fighters fall in line behind her and support her after that. And now it feels as though, I mean, I'm sure Project Spearhead isn't dead. She's still actively trying to work on it, but it feels as though it's slowed significantly, and the interest from fighters has been significantly hampered since they let her go, since the UFC let her go. And again, no one was jumping to her defense. If they let her go and you saw the bigwigs of the sport, like the Jon Joneses and Daniel Cormiers and Conor McGregor's, like falling in line behind her, I mean, that would be helpful. But it's just such a selfish sport that I think it's one of those things where once fighters get to a certain point where they're actually making legitimate money and you don't have to have a 40-hour-a-week job, they're already there. They're already there. It's no benefit to them to help the others come to that place. You know, like I got mine. Now you guys need to work to get yours, type of thing, and it sucks, man.
Yeah, I hate that individualistic, mindset that these guys have when it comes to that. All it's going to take is for, one guy that, like you said, has that paycheck to stand up, but they're not going to do it because they don't want pushback from the promotion. I'm sure it's like, oh, we did all such and such and such X, Y, and Z for you, and now you're doing this to us. It's kind of going to be like that kind of thing, and especially when Conor, like prime example, is the guy that's talking about wanting to be part ownership, and imagine if he did that and was like, I'm gonna represent Project Spearhead now.
That would be wild.
Dana's gonna call him immediately and be like, what the are you talking about?
Yeah,
it would be madness, though. That would be madness. That would make Twitter explode.
That would be crazy.
Man. Twitter would explode if Conor tweeted something like that out.
I mean, you guys remember like 2 years ago when the MMA AAAAAA whatever was going on? It was just like, think of the lineup there. It was GSP, Cain Velasquez, TJ Dillashaw, Donald Cerrone. Like, all those dudes are major figures in the sport. How many of those guys are talking about unions right now? Well, TJ Dillashaw's the champion. He's not talking about that. GSP's doing whatever the hell he wants. He's not talking about that. Like,
of course not. That one unraveled so quickly because that was the one Bjorn was involved with, right?
Yeah, that was one Bjorn was involved with, and literally like the day afterward, Donald Cerrone backed off and was like, "Oh no, I'm not part of some union."
That was because like I remember.
It's like, well, come on.
I remember I was at that fight week where Cerrone fought, and somebody asked him, and he was like, I didn't really know too much about it. I'm like, okay, like what? What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, you representing this thing, like, and you have no idea. But I did ask him. I mean, like, he has some good ideas about, what should happen in a union. Like, me and him talked about it, and like, he basically said everything other than it's got to be more than just getting us more money. He talked about all the other things, like all the fighter, like insurance and pensions and things like that. He talked about all that kind of stuff, which is like, yeah, that's perfect. Like, keep pushing for that. Like let's keep working towards this goal. But it just fell out. TJ got the belt again. He's not talking about it. It was weird when Stipe did before the DC fight. He did the the little luncheon thing, and Mark tried to slide in a question about the unions, and he's like, "Nah." and then I think I want to say I heard Karen Bryant and like off to the side, kind of like, good try. And then Steve kind of gave like a little wink and the laugh type thing, It was almost like they said, "Don't ask this beforehand." It's so weird. Oh my God. It's so weird.
It's never. I just have lost hope for it at this point.
And so like, I know you write a lot of like long form pieces that are awesome. I always tell people like, whenever they ask me for like a long form MMA piece, I send them to your piece the night I fought Aldo. Like, I love that.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you, man.
Like, I love that like just the whole theme of it and then how it all came together. Like, I wanted to ask you in Dallas actually, but being in fight mode on that night, I forgot. But like, when you reached out to the fighters for that, like, was it tough to get them to talk about that, or was it just like,
oh man,
how did that go?
Yeah, it's so I've done 3 of those now. I've done Anderson Silva, José Aldo, and Nate Diaz. And I was like 80% done with a Michael Bisping one when he announced his retirement and kind of screwed me. That one was going to be really fucking great too. Like I had done so much work on it. I'd done months of work on that. But yeah, man, whenever I start those, like, nobody wants to talk to you because for the most part, you're probably talking to someone about a loss, right? Because
exactly.
if someone's getting this kind of piece, they probably have beaten a lot of people. So you're not calling them and be like, hey, tell me about this guy you beat up. You're calling them and be like, hey, man, tell me about this guy who really beat the crap out of you like 6 years ago. I know you really want to talk about this. Right. So like it's always incredibly, incredibly difficult to get people to agree to these type of features. Like I always just try to scattershot it where maybe like, I don't know if you have this buddy at the bar who will like hit on like 50 women just to try to get one, right?
Wow.
So that's kind of that's kind of what that's my approach is I'll just scattershot it and send out a billion different requests and whatever comes back, and then I'll kind of work from there because nobody wants to talk about these things, man. And I always have the utmost respect for anybody who's willing to speak on it for a project like that because I wouldn't want to talk about it if I was a fighter.
Yeah, so like what's the weirdest response you've gotten from someone? Is it just like, they completely ghost you, or is there somebody giving you like the F off type thing, or what?
See, I'm usually like really, really polite about it because I know it's not something that they want to talk about. So I've never gotten someone really aggressively tell me off. I for the most part, either get ignored if they don't want to do it, or they'll just politely be like, nah, man, I'm cool. Like, don't worry about it. I've had a couple people ghost me entirely, but for the most part, like, people are really good about it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I love them, man. Keep them coming, though, man. I hope you still do something with that Bisping one because, like I said, man, those are some of my favorite pieces to read out there. And not everything is, it takes, like, especially in MMA, like, there's only so many different angles you can go with stuff, it seems. So you got to find something unique and run with it. And I think you've definitely done that with those. So,
thank you, man. I appreciate it, man. I hope I can repurpose the Bisping one. Like, I think we're probably going to repurpose it for something next year, maybe when he goes to the Hall of Fame or something. Because, like, I had already done all the research. I had done a ton of interviews for that. I just needed to write it. And then randomly on, like, I can't remember. It was like a Labor Day or some kind of holiday Sunday. He retires, and it's like, dude, I can't write this in 2 hours. Like, what are you doing? Just give me a week's notice, and I got you. All the artwork was done and everything. Like, oh, my God. I was so mad.
That's brutal.
Because it's one of those things too where like sure I could have started that day and then like just published it like 2 weeks from then, but at that point it's old news, no one cares, so it's like, what are you doing?
All right. I mean, you can still do it.
Shawn, before we let you go, what fight needs to happen after Conor and Khabib and Max in T-City? What's the fight that people are not talking about that needs to be made within the next 6 months?
Tony Ferguson needs to be in that conversation at some point, regardless. Like Tony Ferguson either needs to fight Conor or Khabib. Like I need to see Tony Ferguson fight one of those two guys. Just because for like 2 years now, 3 years, I've been on this train that Tony Ferguson is the best lightweight in the world, and I just haven't had a chance to be proven right or wrong. And I just really want that opportunity because I feel like that dude's style is so weird. And he's just such an eccentric character that like it sucks that we haven't really had a chance to see him in that spot. But also, I mean, I'm a mark and I want to see Conor Diaz 3. Like I just really want to see that.
I think UFC wants Conor to win, Conor Diaz 3 for the belt, and Khabib finally fights Tony and put it all on the same card.
How sick would that be? That would be ridiculous. That would be the biggest pay-per-view of all time, probably.
But no disrespect to Anthony Pettis, who's fighting Tony Ferguson. He's just completely writing off Pettis right now. Like, he has no chance against Tony.
No, I'm not writing him off. Like I said, though, I just have long felt like I really believe Tony's the number one guy. And I just hope he gets a chance to prove it before he kind of ages out compared to the other lightweights.
For sure. It is kind of weird, though, that... I mean, I get it. Maybe it's like a backup plan type thing if something happens to Khabib or Conor in this upcoming, 229. But... I don't know. It's kind of weird that the interim champ is also on the same card. But, I mean, it makes sense, though. If something happens to them, you slide him right in, I would assume. But
yeah, that's exactly. He's 100% the backup plan. He wanted to get on that card just because you never know with Khabib or Conor. Any of those, if somebody trips on a wire doing media, like Tony's going to jump in that spot.
Oh, my God. What if we end up with Khabib fighting Pettis in this main event? What if that happens?
It's going to be ridiculous either way. Something stupid is going to happen. That always does.
But even more so, like, just to even backtrack from that, just the idea that these guys are training in these camps for so long. I mean, this was a thing Tyron talked about just 2 weeks ago. It's like, I'm not going through a whole camp just to have the opponent switched on me 24 hours away. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, I'm either going to fight that guy or I'm not fighting. So, like, I mean, I would assume, like, that's something that if you're a fighter, a professional, quote-unquote professional fighter, and this is supposed to be a sport, you should be fighting who you're training to fight. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I had the utmost respect for Tyron for coming out with that stance because you knew it wasn't going to be a popular stance, and he already was having trouble with fans connecting with him. But that's the right stance, man. It's like dude's a champion. He's in his late 30s. He's like 35. Like his window to maximize his earning potential is only so small at this point. Like he's worked his entire life to get to this point. You're gonna switch the opponent on him one day out, like Darren Till go from this southpaw rangy striker to like this orthodox tank of a wrestler in Kamaru Usman. Like, come on, man, that's ridiculous. Like that, it's not a sport if you do that. And I appreciate the UFC's efforts to get a backup fighter in there, just because, as we even saw in Dallas with Nico, like this is happening in basically every card at this point. So like any solutions to do this, to fix this problem are appreciated. But it's still up to the fighter, and if Tyron doesn't want to fight a backup fighter on a day's notice, like I would never blame him. That's the smart decision in my mind.
Yeah, 100% agree, man. And it's not a sport for not only that reason, but so many other reasons as well. And it's also one of those things like unions would help out with, because not every fighter is like Tyron in that belief. Like Conor, I'm sure, would be like, I don't give a fuck, whoever.
Yeah.
You know, or it could be send me location. He doesn't care. Like, there's some people that do, and some people are like, nah, this is professional fighting. I kind of need, like, Jon Jones wouldn't do it. We've seen that. We've seen Jon Jones say no. You know, it's just.
But what's even worse is that there'd be some people who maybe like a new champion or like a younger guy who would not want to do it, but would feel compelled to do it because he thinks that's what the company wants, and so he wouldn't be thinking about his own best interests. And I feel like there's a lot of those type of fighters in the UFC. So like, it is an unfortunate situation.
It is. It's a crazy game we cover, man.
Right.
Like I said, man, I enjoy all your work that you do with MMA fighting. I listen to the live chats when I can with Mark. Those are pretty cool. Keep those coming. Yeah,
Appreciate it, man.
MMA fighting, man. A lot of people were out on MMA fighting. It seemed like in the MMA bubble, they were questioning what's going to happen when Ariel leaves. What's going to happen? Is it going to shut down? Like, no. Like, come on. There's a lot of talent in MMA fighting. You guys just got Jose Young's joining the team as well.
Yes, sir.
Excited, so that's pretty cool as well. So, yeah, man, MMA fighting is going strong, man, and I love all the content you guys put out. So keep it coming, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate the hell out of it. Those kind words, man. I appreciate it.
For sure, man.
Hey, y'all do good stuff, man.
Thank you, brother.
So, man, thanks for coming on the show, man. We appreciate it. Thanks for the time tonight. You can find you on Twitter at Shaun Al-Shatti, and of course, all the work on MMA fighting. Anything else you want to give a shout out before we let you go?
No, that was well said, man. It's always fun, man. I appreciate you guys having me on anytime.
Appreciate it, man. We hope to see you in an event soon, man. Take it easy, and shout out to the Suns on the upcoming losing season.
How dare you exit me on that?